Good. Yeah. Jack, tell us who you are real quick.
I'm Jack Cole, and I'm a retired New Jersey State Police Detective Lieutenant. 26 years there, 14 years undercover in narcotics. And today I am the Director of Law Enforcement Against Prohibition, or LEAP. It's an organization that of 15,000 members now. Cops, judges, prosecutors, prison wardens, DEA and FBI agents, and we're all calling for an end to drug prohibition. We look at this from the viewpoint of law enforcement, and we know, for instance, when we ended that nasty law, alcohol prohibition in 1933, the next morning, Al Capone and all these smuggling buddies were out of business, right? They were off our streets. They were no longer out there killing each other to control that very lucrative market. They were no longer killing us cops charged with fighting that useless war. And they were no longer killing our children, caught in crossfire, drive-by shootings. So we know that if we legalize and regulate these drugs, we can completely end the violence. And then the regulation of the drugs will end overdose deaths. Let me tell you, people don't die of an overdose because they shoot more and more dope. They die because they don't know how much of that tiny little package of powder they're buying is really the drug and how much the cutting agent. Too much drug and you're dead. It's like Russian roulette without a gun. And in an illegal, unregulated market, they will never know what's in that package. So we could save all those lives if we legalize and regulate drugs. You know, according to the Center for Disease Control, half of all new cases of AIDS and hepatitis can be traced directly back to drug users sharing needles. That doesn't have to happen. If we legalize and regulate these drugs, they don't have to share the needles. We can stop 50% of all the potential cases of AIDS and hepatitis. Think of what we can do with those deadly diseases. And of course, if we start treating drug abuse as a health problem instead of a crime problem, we can actually help these young people who we're arresting and imprisoning, arresting to the tune of 39 million arrests in this country alone for nonviolent drug offenses in the last 40 years. We do everything we can do to destroy their lives, put as many in prison as we can, guarantee that they can't get a job or education, and then we sit back and we scratch our heads and say, gee, I wonder why they didn't quit using drugs. You know, if we spend this $70 billion we spend to fight the war on drugs every year, if we legalize drugs today and say, instead of spending that $70 billion next year to create harsher mandatory minimum sentences, what would happen if we spent it to create mandatory minimum, say, education for everyone? How about mandatory minimum health care for everyone? No, how about talking about some basic kind of decent housing so we wouldn't have homeless in this country? If we create programs that give people hope for the future instead of removing all the hope by arresting and imprisoning people, can you imagine how many fewer drug users we would have? Of course, I'm talking about the hard drugs. But if we tell the truth, all drug use goes down. Just like what happened in Portugal when they decriminalized all drugs, and drug use among especially our young people dropped. Their young people, not our young people. Among their young people, drug use among the 13 to 15-year-olds went down 25% after decriminalization. After telling people, you can use this and you can possess up to 10 days supply on your person without getting arrested. And for young folks 16 to 18 years old, it went down the use by 22%. As a matter of fact, the use for every drug declined, save one, marijuana. And marijuana only increased slightly in use in Portugal. And the interesting thing is, in the same 8 years since Portugal has decriminalized all drugs, marijuana use in all the other European countries where they haven't decriminalized has increased by 4 to 5 times what it increased in Portugal. So this stuff really works, you know. We can reduce death, disease, crime, and addiction by legalizing drugs. What could be better than that?
All I know is when I go home tonight, I am going to be, the KOP is going to be watching this on MikeCann.net. I tell everybody, go to MikeCann.net to see and hear everything that's going on in the decriminalization and legalization aspect of Boston, Mass. That's MikeCann.net. KOP signing off.